Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews and to another What I'm Reading Right Now video here on the channel. This is the series where I talk about what I have been reading, what I'm currently reading, and what I shall be reading next. It's been a pretty mediocre week in terms of reading. I've been trying my hardest, I just can't seem to finish books. So this is my reset, this is my get back on track, this is my I can do the thing video, okay? I have finished 3 things since last time we spoke, I know. First up, I finished The Hacienda. Now this has been out for a while in other places, this is for the UK release. It's so good. I can't believe I slept on this for quite so long. It's a fantastic, haunted, harrowing story about a woman who marries a man and goes to live on his hacienda, and haunted, horrible things start happening, and it's a wonderful story. It's very overtly supernatural, which I enjoyed. Often haunted houses will play a little bit with, is it really happening? Is it in your mind? Which is an interesting take, but not what this book was going for, which I liked. Overall, a great time. I had a wonderful time with this book, definitely recommend. I would say don't read it if you're super not into horror, but if you are, it's fantastic. Then I finished my reread of Wild Seed by Octavia E. Butler, ready to read the other books in the series. I'm aware that's not quite in the right order. I'm not worrying about it too much. This is the book that I own. I really like this. I liked it a lot more on a reread actually than I did the first time around, I think because I knew where it was going. It's a story about 2 immortals who are kind of locked in a battle of sorts. There's a lot to do with, I guess, the selective breeding of people with powers is probably where I would say this goes. Definitely look up the content warnings before you pick this up, but it's a really interesting speculative book. It's not like a favourite for me, but I do think it's very thought-provoking. And lastly, I finished Notorious Sorcerer by Davinia Evans. This was a reread because I need to read the sequel. I actually like this a lot more on a reread. I don't know what it was. Potentially it's that I read it physically rather than digitally. That might have had an impact. I think it's also this is the kind of book that just feels better when you have a sense of the arc rather than just feeling out where you're going. I think it made a lot more sense knowing where it would end up, which isn't always the best thing for a debut, so it's interesting that they chose to do that kind of story. It makes me hopeful for the sequel, that the sequel will be good. I'll be honest, if the sequel is mid, these are getting on hold, but we hold out hope that it will not be mid. Notorious Sorcerer is the story of a young guy called Sion who lives in a city where alchemy is technically illegal unless you have special dispensation. He is trying to climb his way up, pull his way up by his bootstraps in order to get official alchemist status. However, there's stuff going on with the planes. Planes are shifting, planes are not connecting as they should. There's big stuff going on in the city and Sion gets caught up in the middle of it all. This is a really interesting story on its own. I do think it's going to feel more solid as part of a trilogy. Just my feelings and my thoughts. I am in the middle of 2 things that are worth talking about, and that fabric book from last week, haven't read any more of it because I can't finish anything. I'm reading City of Lies by Sam Hawke. I'm about halfway through this. Fun story, maybe not fun. You'll remember last week I couldn't find my copy of this. I still couldn't find it. I ended up buying a digital copy because I was like, I just need to start this. I'll read it. It'll be fine. Couldn't find the physical copy. Went through both of my shelves. I've done my unhaul, so I've pulled all the stuff off the shelves. Couldn't find it. It was just there. It was just on my downstairs shelves, staring me in the face. I just, for some reason, couldn't perceive this magical book that disappears when you want to find it. But now that I have it physically, I'm hopeful that I'll blast through the rest of this today. City of Lies is a book about a city that is under siege, but they don't know really why it is being sieged. And Joven is the expert on poisons, so he both can poison people and also detects poison for the Chancellor, and then his sister Kalina, who should have had that job but because of chronic illness doesn't. It's a really wonderful city fantasy for that reason. Low magic, just a great time. And I think it's interesting reading it this time around. I'm really struggling, and I think it's just to do with reading way too many big chunky fantasy books at the same time. And I need to remember that even though the pages of the things that I've been reading have been fairly low, I've also got those big audiobooks going on in the background, and I just need to cut myself a little bit of slack. Also finishing off Master of Souls by Rena Barron. This is the 3rd book in the Kingdom of Souls trilogy about a girl with magic, demonic war kind of thing going on. I am enjoying this a lot more than I expected. However, I'm just not prioritizing audiobooks still. And I've been very busy, and I think that's part of the reason, but I've just got to really sit down and get through the last hour or so of this book. But overall, I'm having a good time. I think it's one of those books where I feel a lot of frustration at the characters, but my frustration is with the characters, not the writing, so I think it is an intentional kind of thing. But I need people to talk to one another and have difficult conversations rather than just avoiding it and kissing instead. But that's just me. Still to read this week, because most of that was stuff I should have finished last week, The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is a reread. I'm just looking forward to it. I'm saving this for the weekend so I can just enjoy it. The Echo Wife is a story about a woman who is a scientist who her ex-husband is working in cloning, and there's a person who looks just like her that is his new wife. It's a kind of a speculative thriller, I guess, and I loved it the first time I read it. Don't want to spoil it too much, but I'm rereading it as part of my project of rereading my favourites, so you know it's going to be a win. I left my copy downstairs, but Karen Memory by Elizabeth Bear is a reread for Overbooked, and This Wicked Fate by Kaylin Bayron I have from the library that I need to read because I'm aware that somebody else is waiting for it, and I would like them to be able to read it sooner rather than later. The last thing that I wanted to try and get read this week that I think is going to have to be pushed forward by a week or so is Mind of My Mind, which is the next book in the Patina series. However, I'm still waiting for my library loan to come in. It should come in the next couple of days. Maybe I'll fit it in this week, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. In terms of things added to my TBR, this book didn't really count as an addition because I did already have a digital copy, but Orbit were kind enough to send me a finished copy of Shadow Baron, which is the sequel to Notorious Sorcerer. Look at them together. Don't they look happy? This is a little bit longer, but not by a lot. I'm interested to see how it goes. I'm really glad that I can read it physically, given how Notorious Sorcerer went. Other book that I've added is a book that's not out till June of next year, so we've got a little bit of a while. I will probably end up making an extremely early video for it that won't go up till next year. This is, I'm going to look at my notes so I can read the title correctly, The Cautious Traveller's Guide to the Wastelands, and this is a kind of climate crisis-based book. I'm hoping it'll feel a little bit similar to The Past is Red, but a little bit more blown out. It just sounded very interesting. I liked the cover. I just thought this sounded very cool, and we're getting set up for 2024 reads. I mean, it's time. I don't have new releases to talk about this week, I don't believe, but we can check. I don't think there are. I really don't think I've read anything that's coming out in early November. Yeah, that's November the 7th. Yeah, early November. Not that much coming out that I care about, so let's move on. What have you been reading? What have you been up to? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I'd like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams, and more. If you'd like to join their number, that's linked below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. Notorious Sorcerer is the story of a young man called Sion.